Hello and welcome. I am Matt Roddy, and this is the Greater Prescott podcast, where we talk about, you guessed it, all things Greater Prescott. Today, I am with Mark Stafford at Ablaze Media.
It's Stafford.
Let's just do it over. It's funny. I almost looked at my phone on my way in today.
Well,
it's Stafford.
Stafford.
Let's do it again.
Stafford. Yeah. No R except for at the end.
Okay. This is the first time I've redone one, so let's do it.
No, it's all right. I figured I'd get that out of the way early.
Let's do it.
Perfect.
I could have just gone with it too.
You could have.
Whatever. Let's do it again. Hello and welcome. I am Matt Roddy, and this is the Greater Prescott podcast, where we talk about, you guessed it, all things Greater Prescott. Today, I am with Mark Stafford with Ablaze Media. Mark, thank you for being on the pod today.
Well, thanks for inviting me to be here.
Absolutely. So Mark owns Ablaze Media. We will get more into this later in the podcast, but what's one or two paragraphs about what Ablaze Media is?
Well, in one or two paragraphs, we are a graphic design agency that does web design also. And we also have a whole digital marketing arm. So we basically do all things design and marketing for small businesses. Most of our customers are here locally.
Okay. So we're going to dive into that down the road. But
You got it.
First, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
You're a
Thanks for coming
busy
in.
business owner, and I really appreciate it. I genuinely do.
Well,
So thank you.
You got it. I'm glad to be here.
Where were you born and raised? What did you do when you were a kid? Kick it off. Kick the story off.
Well, now I want you to know that I was born and raised in San Diego, California. But here's the deal. When I was in San Diego, California, we made fun of people from Arizona. It was not cool to go to Arizona in those days. The only thing I knew about Arizona people is they were the people in the cars with all the dust on them that drove way too slow in the fast lane. They're on Interstate 8. So that's what I knew about Arizona. And I honestly got here on a music scholarship.
Okay.
Yeah. I had a just through a set of connections. I got a scholarship on what's now Arizona Christian University.
Oh yeah.
And
in Phoenix.
In Phoenix,
yes.
yeah. It was called Southwestern Conservative Baptist Bible College in those days.
Okay.
And anyway, so I got a full ride playing in one of their groups. And so I'm like, well, I guess as much as I maybe don't want to go to Arizona, that's where I'm going to go. And so I've been in Arizona since before it was cool to come here.
No kidding.
I've been in Arizona longer than I was in California at this point.
All right. How long were you in the Valley? Was it just for college?
For college, and then for several years,
Okay.
I worked there too. So I was there altogether for 13 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so long time.
Were you in Tucson at all?
No.
Okay.
Always in the West Valley usually,
Yep.
actually. And I went to school there in Paradise Valley where the college used to be. And then moved over to the West Valley.
Yes.
And spent most of my time over there.
Gotcha. I just saw a statistic on the news that I think Arizona is the ranked number 3 state for people moving to Arizona. Like Texas is maybe number 1. Florida, I think it's like Texas, Florida, Arizona. Whatever it is. It's funny now that you say that because a lot of you Californians have moved here. And it's a great place. And you guys make it great. I love it.
Well, I always feel a little self-conscious about starting out the fact I'm one of those Californians because I did marry into Prescott. My wife is from here,
Gotcha.
born and raised here. And we've been here for in Arizona long enough to where we feel like we're part of the tapestry here.
Yes, absolutely. So what was San Diego like when you were growing up? What'd you do there? Were you close to the beach? Were you inland?
Oh yeah, I was way far inland.
Okay.
I went to high school in the El Cajon area. I worked in El Cajon and La Mesa, kind of there East Valley. And so I grew up actually by San Diego State, which would have been considered, I guess, inner city.
Okay.
Which is kind of funny because it was just my house when I grew up. I didn't really know any different.
Right.
But it was sort of a higher crime area, and but it was home and. And I don't know what else to say about San Diego other than the weather is amazing there.
It is nice. Do you have brothers and sisters?
I do have a brother who is in Florida right now.
All right.
He works for St. Thomas University and Abilene Christian University. He's a PhD.
In what?
In online instructional design. And so that's something.
I love it.
He actually does some work for Ablaze Media.
Okay.
He does a little bit of contract work for us, does some copywriting. He's putting together some classes for some of our clients.
Great.
He and I are working together on a master class right now for small business marketing.
Okay.
And he and I are working on a book right now as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's really neat.
Yeah. We like each other.
Sounds like it. I mean, he's far enough away that doesn't get in the way, right?
Yeah, he's cool. I like him.
When you went to college, you played music. What instrument or instruments did you play, and what did you get a music education major, sort of a thing?
No, I didn't get a music education major, and I still to this day I'm a professional bassist. I'm a jazz bassist, specifically. I played a number of groups here in town.
On a guitar versus on a like a violin bass or a?
Yeah, they call it a string bass.
String bass. Okay.
Yeah, I do own a string bass.
Really?
I'm much better at the. I play a fretless guitar, a fretless bass guitar. And so I'm better at that. So that's what I typically take with me to things, and that's what I played. I actually played a fretted one in college.
Okay.
And so I played that for a gospel group there, and then I was also on another scholarship over at Glendale College, and played in their jazz band there.
Oh,
and then I was on a record label. Benson Records at the time, and I toured with this band called, it's kind of silly, but it was a band called Everybody Duck.
Okay.
And it was an alternative band that went and played a bunch of youth rallies. So anyway, that was those were good times. So I've been playing professionally ever since.
Okay.
I'll be playing actually at the college tonight.
Oh.
And you're playing with their Monday night band, and I have several rehearsals this week. And so it's that's been kind of a hobby and that I get paid for. So
definitely.
It's kind of fun.
I love the podcast because whoever my guest is, at this point, a majority of you guys are business owners. So it's simple to talk about Ablaze Media. The fun part, even more fun, I think, for me, is just to learn about these little quirks that people have, like people do this and people do that, and because people are multifaceted, and that's one reason I really like this long form content, is that we can get into the fact that you played music and stuff like that something in a 5 or 10 minute interview probably wouldn't come out, or you just
probably not.
Listeners just wouldn't quite get the real sense of like, this guy's really passionate about it, and what fun stories and things like that. So I really like that.
Yeah, you got it.
Keep going. After college, were you a professional? Did you get paid to be a musician? Did that cover your wages? What'd you do?
Well, I was able to pay for almost my entire education with music. So whether
congratulations.
Between my scholarships and between playing professionally, I was able to just about pay it off. By the time I was done with college, it was pretty well paid off. And at that point, I know this might not be a surprise to you, but a bunch of finicky musicians living in a van together, the band broke up. So
what a
so at that point, I'm like, well, I'd gotten actually a ministry degree.
Okay.
At a Southwestern college, which is now Arizona Christian University. And so I went and I took a job doing youth and music in a church. And that's when I moved up to Pine Top. I had mentioned that when we were chatting before, and so I went and did that up there, and then it kind of dried up, and so I moved back to the Valley again, and I served a long time at a church over in the West Valley, doing youth ministry, and I spent 20 years in church ministry altogether. It was a long time. And my media company actually sprung out of a plant. I went out to plant a new church, and I needed to pay for it, because the church plant wasn't going to pay my bills. And so I started Ablaze Media as a way to fund my church plant. Yeah. And the church plant didn't take off. Okay. Ablaze Media did. So there you go. So I'm like, well, I guess this is what I'm doing now.
Yeah. Did you grow up in a Christian family?
I did. Okay. I did. Yeah, my mom was a Christian school teacher, and my dad was a mechanic. So
yeah. I grew up in a Christian family also. It was not until my senior year of college that I gave my life to Christ. All right. Well, praise the Lord. I was raised in a Christian family. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
what were the early days of Ablaze Media like? And let's put it in context. How many years, or when did you start?
Well, that's a good question. I went from that job I mentioned in the West Valley as a youth guy, and I always really had as much of a passion for ministry as I did for music and media. I really love those three things together. If I can put those things together,
That's a good point.
And I had an opportunity to jump off of the church and get into Christian broadcasting.
Okay.
And so at that point, I took a job as the promotions director at what at the time was Arizona's Lighthouse, KGCB. And so I worked for them for a couple of years, and at that point, I was really able to refine my media skills. I did everything for the station. This is back when it was 100,000 watts. It was a blowtorch of a station. That's what they call it in the industry, a blowtorch.
Gotcha.
Because it's a rare 100,000 watt monster. It reached everywhere, and so I was in charge of everything to do with the station's promotions, and so that's everything that wasn't on the air. I was in charge.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there was a guy who just did the things that were on air. The guy named Mike Medlin. I don't know if you remember that name from years back, but and he's a good guy. Our office is right next to each other.
Okay.
And so anyway, he handled all of that. But if it was, press releases, graphics, trade show displays, the van getting lettering on it, showing up to events, running the booth, doing our promotion, that was all
you.
That was all me. And so I learned a lot in those days. And it was right in those days that, honestly, my boss came to me. Her name, we're still really good friends. Her name is Carol Stensrud. She came to me and she goes, you have everything it takes to start an agency. And so I kind of filed that away. Oh, that's interesting. But at that point, this was kind of late 2000s, maybe 2006, 2007.
Okay.
I started taking on side work.
Yeah.
And I called that at first Stafford Graphics, but then I renamed that Ablaze Media shortly thereafter. And that's really where we got our start.
Okay. It is so beneficial to, in a sense, get thrown into the fire, like the radio station, and have to learn a lot of things. It's so beneficial. I'm sure there were days you're like pulling your hair out going, I wish I don't want to have to do all of this. I want to do other things. But, you fast forward and you've done so many things. And I just think about being open to learning. It doesn't matter if you're young or if you're old, but if you're willing to learn and just get in there and get dirty, you can learn so many things.
Yeah, it's true. And, the station was great about, giving me some continuing education. And then they had a crew there that was really, sometimes you have these staffs that you work for that are just amazing. And it was one of those seasons when I showed up there that they had this who's who of people who were on staff. They had some of the best development people I've ever worked with. They got nominated for Station of the Year a couple of times while we were there. So they had some of the best production people that I've ever worked with. They had guys, or actually ladies specifically, that were from newspaper, that had worked on political campaigns. I mean, just this who had taught at the college.
Okay.
So it was this great cross section of really gifted people, and so I got to hang out with those people and learn from them for a couple of years.
Yep.
And then it was, it actually was a church that needed me to come over and do music and media and ministry all together again. Oh
man, jackpot.
And they there was this kind of upstarting church plant that was willing to pay me a whole lot more money. And I said, well,
pretty much a perfect fit.
Maybe I'll go do that now. So and then again, I had Ablaze Media on the side to kind of help supplement some of that income. And so it was good. So it's kind of been on the side for a long time.
Okay.
I just jumped into it full time 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
So I mean, I've had Ablaze Media for I think 14 years. Yeah. But it took all that time to finally say, okay, I think it's time for us to do this full time.
That makes sense. When in all of this did you meet your wife?
Well, I met her in college.
Okay.
And, again, back at Southwestern. And it's a small school in those days. It was under 200 kids.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So we all kind of knew everybody, and she was coming in mid-semester, and I don't know. Yeah. It's hard not to know everybody in a school of 200.
My high school was 200 people. Yeah, it was Desert Christian High School in Tucson.
Okay.
Pretty much, you knew everybody.
That's the way that goes.
Yeah, so especially if a cute girl walks in halfway during the semester, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
She needs some help. You got to get her.
She needs some dinner.
Exactly.
Which I have to say that dinner usually, was Taco Bell. It was never anything very good. But,
Hey.
That is the standard that I've kept to all these years.
You're a good man. Good man, Mark. What's her name?
Laura.
You got a good man. You got a Taco Bell man. That's hilarious. So she happened to be born and raised up here in Prescott?
She was from here and born and raised in Prescott, went to Prescott High School.
Okay.
And the whole thing. So
yeah.
So I like to say that I married into Prescott.
Yes.
So I like to think of myself as more of a local than not.
As opposed, which is different than moving here from somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
How did you guys decide to move back up here?
Well, we had been trying to get to northern Arizona for a long time.
Okay.
I didn't really like living in Phoenix very much, and that's probably understerndable.
Yeah,
for somebody
I shared before the podcast. It's not for everyone.
It's not for everybody. I work with some really great people down there, but I really was trying to get back up north. Okay. And so again, it was this opportunity with KGCB that was the catalyst for us saying, okay, now we have a job. I actually can make a living up there. Because, one thing that people learn about Prescott is if you move here and you're not retired, it's sometimes a little bit hard to find a job here.
It's very hard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there you go. I had a job.
That's what took us 4 or 5 years to move up. Mm-hmm. Just the right jobs didn't open up. And so that's why we stayed in the valley. And then when that job opened up, okay, all right, Lord, we're going up.
Right.
Does Laura work?
Well, Laura does a number of things.
Okay.
So right now she's teaching Prenda, which is a charter school that she teaches out of our front room. So she's got 10 students that come to our house every day for 4 days, for about half the day. And so she does that in the morning. And then she also works for her brother, managing some of his properties, which we are also an investor in.
Gotcha.
So she does that. And she manages the back end of my business.
Nice.
And he does all our finances and whatnot. Does a little bit of investing here and there.
Okay.
So, in addition
she
to having,
does a lot.
Yeah. And so she works mostly for us.
Yeah.
It's
great.
We're kind of all self-employed around the Stafford house.
Absolutely.
But yeah, she does a lot. And then she keeps up the house, and we have a 4-year-old, and
yeah,
there's a lot going on there.
There's a lot going on. So then when you moved up here, what job did you take when you were up here, and then just lead that into going full-time with Ablaze?
Well, I'll give you the short version, but I came up here for KGCB, and then I was recruited out of KGCB into what was then called Harvest Bible Chapel, and they were a growing church plant, and I was with them for a long time.
Okay.
And I saw them grow from a couple hundred people to about 1,200 people.
Okay.
And then when they got to that point, they sent me out to plant a church, and that's where Ablaze Media came from. I kind of had it this whole time on the side, and they said, hey, Mark, you could do Ablaze Media half-time, plant the church half-time. We're going to send you over to Cottonwood. And because Cottonwood is also a very hard place to make a living, unless you have something like, I don't know, like a media company you can also run. So I went over there. I did that for 4 years. Started this right here, a Canyon Bible Church of the Verde Valley.
Okay.
And that was a really, really great people over in the Verde Valley. I still keep connected to those folks over there. I do a lot of work for people in the Verde Valley. I'm over there 3 times a month.
Oh, nice.
I'll be going over tomorrow, in fact.
Okay.
But the church plant just didn't work out.
Right.
And so at that point we came back. We had a house there. We had a house here.
Oh man.
We put both up for sale.
Yeah.
And that one sold.
Okay.
So we're like, well, I guess we're moving back to Prescott. So we moved back here, and that's when I said, okay, I'm just going to do Ablaze Media full time.
Okay.
And I had a little bit of seed money at that point.
Nice.
To
help you get
to kind of
started,
get going, because it takes a while with a small business.
Absolutely.
That was my biggest hurdle, is I needed some money to to get past those first few months, taking it from a half-time gig to a full-time gig. And
you needed the time to put into the business, because if you would have been working a part-time job, it doesn't leave you the time that you need. It's a catch-22.
Yeah, it really is. And the time I needed to spend doing sales, you'll get paid for sales unless you sell something.
Right.
And so I needed to do quite a bit of sales in those days in order to build my customer base up. I needed about double my customer base I could go from half-time to full-time. And that took me a little bit of time to do.
Okay.
But, at this point, we're pretty busy around here.
Rolling.
Yeah.
On that note, looking back at your half-time, kind of part-time job with Ablaze, what do you look back on as being kind of an impetus for you really getting things rolling? Was it certain sales things, people you reached out to? Was it emails you sent? Was it just kind of networking? What came along that really allowed that to happen?
Yeah, I would say it's a combination of a lot of those things. We were sending out, just from a marketing standpoint, we were sending out print, we were sending out email, and we were on social media, and I was shaking a lot of hands.
Okay, good.
And so it was all of those things. And as we got more and more involved, and then we had a number of successes along the way, where people, they trusted us with something, and we were able to not just deliver, but more than deliver on what we said. And so that business card job turned into, all of their stationery, and then their website, and then their trucks, and then it just goes on and on and on and on, and those things started to snowball on us. And so once we had a handful of those kind of businesses that were just giving us everything, then we were able to say, this is no problem taking this full time.
And I ask you that because that's what I thought your answer was going to be. A lot of people think that one thing is going to get their business started, and for a select few that could happen, but for a majority of people, it's shaking hands, it's sending emails, it's meeting people, it's this and that and more, and it's just this little snowball that starts, and the more you do it, the more it gets going, and the more it gets going, and now here you are full time.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard from people that, just what you're saying. They're like, well, I tried, this, just they fill in the blank. I tried having a website or the coupon mail or this ad in a magazine. I tried this one thing and it didn't work. Well, it's got to be a whole lot more than one thing. If you want to start a small business, man, you have to be all in on every front, working every contact, plus turning over excellent work.
That's it. For everyone who's listening who wants to start a business, Mark just said it. It's totally true.
It's totally true.
I don't know if it's the age of social media where people think they maybe just get a perception that it's just really simple. And it's just really hard.
It's hard. Mm-hmm. It's hard. And you know what? It should be hard.
Yes.
It's not supposed to be easy. If you want an easy job, then, go work somewhere for somebody else. That's easy.
It. Mm-hmm.
But if you want to start your own business, it's tough. It's a challenge, because not only do I have to be good at what I do with the product that I'm offering, but then there's a lot of things I'm not so good at that I also have to get done. I have to keep the office up. I have to maintain the equipment. I have to do accounting. Well, that's what my wife is for.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at that.
Thank you, Laura. No, and you bring up just such a good point. Just because you own a business doesn't mean all you get to do is what you're good at.
No.
Oftentimes that's in the minority. There's a lot of other housekeeping things to do.
There are. And so those things can kind of bog you down. Taxes and accounting and those kind of things that for an artist, that's tough.
For a creative, that is the last thing we want to do.
But we do it, and we have good people that help us.
And it's worth it, right?
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. It is. Yeah, I love working for myself, and I love being able to do creative things for a living, because still 80% of my time is spent doing creative things.
Great. Yay.
Yeah, that's good.
In a 60-second soundbite, what is Ablaze Media?
Well, Ablaze Media is a marketing agency for small businesses. Just put it in one phrase. We really specialize in graphic design. I'm a designer first and foremost.
Okay.
And so we started out as a print design company. We added in web design, and we make really beautiful websites.
Yeah.
That are design heavy because I'm a designer. And then we added a social media aspect to it as well. So we do a digital marketing. And really what our ideal client is somebody who comes in and just says, hey, look, here's my budget and I need everything to match, because we can design on so many different fronts. That we can not only put together their print pieces, but we can design ads for every conceivable thing they need to go into. We can negotiate all those offers. We can design radio if we need to. I mean, we can write scripts and write ads and record that if we need to. We can do video. We can do social media. We can do the whole thing, and so that everything is all working together for somebody's marketing effort. So. That's our ideal client, but in reality, we work for a lot of small businesses that they're able to do a lot of things themselves, or they want to do some things themselves, and so they'll say, "Well, I'm going to go ahead and design my own, I'm going to put together my own website, but I don't know anything about print. So can you do my print for me? Okay. I can do a website, but I don't know anything about social media. So can you do my social media for me? So we end up doing a lot of those kind of, filling in the gap kind of roles for a lot of our clients. So if that's helpful, that makes it a little bit of a, kind of what we want to be and what we design the company to be. But in reality, sometimes it's a little bit different.
You mean it didn't work out perfectly, Mark? Oh, man. We're done with this podcast, everyone.
Well, when you work in a small market, you have to just do what needs to get done.
Amen.
That's just the reality of it. If we worked in a bigger market, we'd probably be able to specialize in a couple of things. But that's not who we are, and that's not where we're at.
Right.
And so because we're in Prescott, we really strive to take a company and just do whatever they need.
Right.
And sometimes that's something we're really good at, and sometimes that's something we scratch our head about and go, well, I guess we'll figure that one out.
You've mentioned a couple of times your love for design. Where did that come from?
What's funny? If I scroll back,
if
I roll back the camera, my parents. No, I'll roll back even further. When I was in third grade, so this is 1982, 83, an Apple IIe showed up at my school. And I don't know if you remember Apple IIes. This is ancient days. And it had a program on it called Logos. And Logos, it had this thing called Turtle. It's this little triangle that you could program with key commands, and it would make drawings on the page. And I went, man, that's cool. I can make drawings with a computer. We're talking, this is a long time ago. And so I would go in after school into this other classroom with the Apple IIe and program it to do things. And I got good enough at it to where they actually took my designs and they showed them at parent-teacher conferences. Like, this is the kind of high-tech thing that our students are doing, And if you looked at them now, they'd be so corny. But I remember at one point at the school I was at, they had an entire auditorium full of parents, and they set up the Apple IIe, and they had me run my program so everybody could watch it.
Wow!
On this screen that's like this big, and it's like
yeah.
Anyway, so there was just something about computer graphics. The next year in fourth grade, my parents bought me an Apple IIc.
Okay.
I still have it, in fact. Sitting in a box. My wife wants me to get rid of it.
No.
But I'm like, no, it has sentimental value to me.
You can't.
And
you should actually put it up on the shelf here or something like that.
I've thought about it.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
Those are becoming collectibles. I just heard something about a lot of those things. I'm 38, you're a little older, but there's a lot of things that when we were little kids, they're now cycling back into this nostalgia, and that's one of them.
I'll tell you what.
Just go on eBay. I'm curious what they're worth.
Well, I have. I thought about selling it a couple of times,
Okay,
and it's more nostalgic to me than it's worth money. But with that being said, I fired it up the other day, and it's actually faster than my production computer.
Is it because it's just so simple?
It's so simple. There's no interface. It's all basic commands.
Okay.
So you actually know what to type in. It's just a cursor that comes up, and it's such a corny thing. No hard drive in it. Everything's run off a floppy disk.
Man,
I still have all the floppy disks. I have all the accessories for it. I have a joystick and games and all kinds of cool stuff. But anyway, so I got that, and I got Print Shop as programmed by Broderbund called Print Shop, and I started doing all of my papers and all my presentations actually with like digital graphics. Yeah. And I was the only one in fourth grade that could pull that bad boy off. And it just kind of went one thing after another, that there was just something about design that attracted me. And even from those very basic days of Apple IICs all the way through, finding a Macintosh for the first time, then getting, when I was working after I went to college, they pulled me on staff at the college to work in their admissions department, which is a marketing department.
Right, yes.
And actually the college sent me to design school.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so as one of their staffers, I learned how to do design with them. And I did all of the brochures for the college at that point. And I did this really rudimentary website for them in front page and HTML. And it was all very, it was so crude in those days.
Yes.
But I did that. But I've been doing it ever since. I've been doing design in some way. I mean, for more than 20 years. Being paid for it for more than 20 years. So
that's wonderful.
It just keeps coming back to me.
Did you do it for when you were a musician, for the bands that you were a part of?
What was funny is that the guitarist in the main band I was in, he was also a media guy. You'll find a lot of musicians are media guys. Okay. That's really common.
It makes sense. It's
the same side of the brain. It's the same process.
Very much so.
And so he did most of the media for the band in those days, and we had designers for that sort of thing. I was more concerned about, living in a van and playing music, But it's a good question. But we did have other people doing that for the band.
Okay. That's great. That's it's just so fun to learn how in the world certain things happen, and it stuck with you.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah. So I appreciate those old apples
absolutely
in elementary school.
Keep it, don't get rid of it, hand it off to your kids, whatever you got to do. No, they won't.
Make a paperweight out of it.
That's true. I would like you to educate the listeners a little bit. What is a couple of the most common questions you get as a media company? My guess is, since they're the top one or two, a lot of people ask the same questions. What are some of those that come to mind? And I think this is just, let's be educational for the people. I think there's some things that you can teach them just from a couple questions that people ask.
Well, I have a couple of questions I would like for them to ask.
That doesn't count.
But in reality, the question I usually get is somebody calling up and they ask, how much does it cost?
Okay.
Usually my number one question is probably how much a website costs. And number two, how much does a logo cost?
Yeah. I think there's a pretty simple answer. What's the answer?
How much are you willing to pay?
It depends.
It depends. We're on the lower end of cost as far as websites are concerned, because we want to begin a relationship with people, and we know there's kind of an ongoing process with websites specifically. So it really depends. And I tell people, if you need a one-page site and you're not relying on it for digital marketing, that's not going to be very much.
Right.
But if you really want to do it right, if you want to put a website at the center of your digital marketing efforts like it should be, then there's going to be a cost to build it, and there's going to be a cost to maintain it. There's going to be a cost to make it secure and make it fast. And websites range from a cheapy website being under $1,000 to I have some people spending $1,500 a month.
Yeah.
So it all
depends.
There's a range.
That's it. I think that's what I want people to understand. It's just such a range. Every business has a different need.
Right.
They're at a different place in their growth. They just have things that they need that others don't.
Right.
And so to have to give a blanket cost, that's not how it works.
It's not totally how it works, no.
Yeah.
But, we can usually bid things out, if people call, and we have some fairly standard things that we do. Yeah. But that's probably the number one thing. People ask us about logos, and then usually when they call and they ask about a logo, about the price, I actually rarely get that customer, because when you're comparing logos just on the basis of price, you can go to Fiverr or 99 Designs or one of those and get it for less than a marketing agent's going to make it for. And they even advertise that way. There's this advertisement on YouTube right now, and this person at this boutique marketing agency, I can't believe it. They at least I got this little bottle of water. Have you seen that one?
Yes. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Well, there's a reason why boutique marketing agencies charge the prices that they do. Because things are. They really try to understand the client, and they really try to understand their market, and they put those two things together, and that's not $99.
Nope.
That costs a little bit of money to get that done, and that isn't usually somebody who lives outside of the area who's able to do that effectively.
Correct.
Usually it's somebody who lives locally and knows the local market and understands, just graphically speaking, what a local person is going to relate to for a certain kind of company.
Yes.
It's complicated. And so anyway, so those people usually don't call me back. Yeah. But usually the ones that call me and say, I just need a logo and I need it done right. Well, great. Now we can work.
Yes. Yeah. Oftentimes, and we talked about this a little before the podcast. I think a lot of people have experiences getting a website built, getting some print made, getting some social media advertising going, and they've put a bunch of money into it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they are left with almost more confusion than anything. They don't actually know how all the dots connect. They may not even have any assets that they own anymore. I mean, it's just kind of a hodgepodge of things. And your ideal customer is someone who says, you know what? I want to do this the right way. And I know it's going to cost a little more, but can you help me?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you a story from radio days. I had a customer that I couldn't even get a hold of them. Like I was there. They call radio people account executives, AEs. Yeah, and I always push to be called a marketing consultant. But anyway, I was there. I was their person at the station. And I had this one customer that they're running ads on the station. They're not offering a phone number. They don't have a website. They have no presence on Google at all, but they're running ads on the station. And so I'm calling them, just trying to get them on the phone, and it's months before I can get them on the phone.
Wow.
The whole time they're getting charged by the station to run these ads. And I'm getting a commission off of it, but it's not doing them any good whatsoever. And so just running a radio advertisement without understanding that connects to a larger marketing effort. If you don't have a good website and you don't have a phone number that you're answering, and you don't have a social media page, and you don't have a way of following up with them with email, then the radio ad is a complete waste of time.
Yes.
And a colossal waste of money. That money would be way better spent doing some other things first.
I think you bring up such a good point. If a business really, really wants to get some traction with their media, it's a multifaceted approach.
It is.
It is going to be a website. It is going to be social media marketing. It is going to be maybe an ebook, white papers, blogs, podcasts. There are so many things that it takes. You don't have to do them all, but what I'm saying is you sure need to have your ducks in a row. You need to have your priorities, and they all need to be interwoven. And that's where someone like you that's really, I think, probably where you shine. It's like, there's so many different things. You're probably confused, Mr. Business Owner. I don't blame you.
Right.
Now, this is where I think you need to start. I mean, you use the word consultancy. I think that's one of the most powerful things you can be to a business is if I were just Joe Schmo off the street and I say, Mark, I need a website. one question from you ought to be, do you, or why do
Yeah.
you need a website?
Why?
I just like, help me figure this out. What does your business do? What does it need? Where do you want to go? It's not a one size fits all at all. No. That's why someone's website could frankly cost $1,000 and do them well, but someone else, they're going to need a $2,000 retainer on a monthly basis because that's what it requires.
Right.
So I just want people to understand media. It's confusing. There's a lot of moving pieces, and you can't just do one or two things and expect your ROI to be what you want.
Well, and then to add to the confusion, every AE, every account executive for every single media organization that you contact, their main goal is to sell you as much of their media as possible. And so to have an agency back up and be like, well, now hold on a second. You need to spend this kind of money at these places, and this thing over here isn't going to do you any good at all. To have somebody really line that up for you. But I would say, just generally speaking, if a company does not have a website, if they don't have some way of retargeting people with email, and there isn't some sort of print presence somewhere, that almost everything else they do is just going to be a waste of time. And now some of those other things, when those things are established, okay, well, now we can add to that blogging, and we can add to that a podcast. We can add to that YouTube. We can add to that, the newspaper, or that is print. I get, radio or TV. There's a lot of other things we can add to that. But if those three basic things aren't in place, and for some small businesses, especially the ones that are like a guy just working out of his truck, man, if he's got a great website, he's got a print ad going out somewhere, and he's able to retarget people with email, sometimes that's all they need.
He probably is going to need some help in the office, frankly.
Honestly. And those things aren't expensive. We're not talking about $1,500 a month for those kind of things. We're talking about, a few $100 a month. Yeah. And for a lot of small guys, that's all they need. And then a lot of bigger companies, then it gets much more complex.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it depends on who you are and what you're trying to do. But to say, well, all right, you got the small guy without a website, without any way of redirecting people, but the coupon mailer is going to be the thing that drives all their business. Practically speaking, we're not seeing that. So people are a little bit confused. They're like, how come this guy with this coupon mailer ad seems to be just like blowing the socks off of everybody? Yeah. And this other guy with this coupon mailer ad isn't getting any business, doesn't even pay for the cost of the ad. Well, there's usually a reason for that.
There's more to the story.
Right.
Usually.
And then what's in the ad sometimes makes a difference too. If a guy, what small business owners do, and just as one of our pet peeves, they love to put a picture of their truck. Yeah, big picture of their truck with a huge picture of their logo and the enormous picture of the business owner, and then a laundry list of all the things that they do. They'll make an ad that's completely egocentric. Here's my truck. Here's me. Here's what I do. Instead of like thinking about the customer, what kind of experience does a customer want to have with you? Let's start there. Yeah. And let's sell the experience they're going to have with you rather than trying to sell how great you are. Yep. And then they're wondering, scratching their heads, well, how come I took out this ad? It doesn't work. Well, it's because nobody really cared about your credentials. They cared about their experience with you.
Yeah. You guys, for you who are listening, this is absolutely crucial to what the media for your business does. You have to be customer centric.
Totally.
Let's just say you're a plumber. It's not the fact that you put in new water heaters. Probably every plumber does that, and on and on and on. It's the fact that you're going to speak to the customer's needs, that when you come into their house, you're going to, maybe something as simple as you're going to wear your booties. You're going to be polite. Your guys are going to be dressed well. They're going to have sent you a video beforehand telling you not only who's going to be there, but the type of work they're going to be done. You need to give you need to calm the customer's psychology. You need to just speak to them.
Right.
You're a plumber. You should know how to do those other things that you did those bullet points. But that's not, the customer already knows that.
Yeah. You don't need to tell them, water heaters and faucets and broken pipes. And of course you
want to tell them kind of the process. You just need to connect with that customer centric.
If you simply had a campaign that's like, we're the cleanest plumber in town. That would be enough for most people. Like
I agree.
You come in clean, and then you show up in a clean uniform, in a clean truck.
Yes.
You clean up after yourself after it's all done, and you're well groomed and polite. Man, people want that in their house.
I think people listening should pay you for that. Just that one little comment right there. And this could actually be something you speak to. We are really good at making a mess out of some things that are just fairly simple. And I think you just named something really simple that a company could do and almost hang their entire business on, that we're going to be the cleanest plumber in the area, or whatever it is. And just from that it just oozes into everything that they do.
It would be such a simple campaign, and it would be deadly effective.
It would be deadly. Man, I love it.
So
it's totally true.
But again, that's what's the experience? What's the fear?
Yes.
Well, the fear of hiring a plumber is I'm going to get a guy who's dirty from the last sewer job he did. He's going to track in mud. Have you ever seen was it Life in Pieces? They have this plumber come in, and he's literally got sewer in his socks, and he takes his shoes off and he drops it through the house.
Yes.
People are afraid. It just came undone.
I hear it going in and out.
All right. And anyway, so people are, you have to speak to their fears. That's their fear. And if you can address that fear, and then you can show some pictures of some beautiful fixtures, like we're going to make your kitchen beautiful, and we're going to leave it clean when we're done.
Yeah.
Again, that's just speaking to the experience. Again, it's nobody cares about the laundry list.
No.
They care about the experience. I'm going to have a beautiful kitchen, and it's going to be sparkling clean when they're through. Perfect. Well, it's true for every business, and you just happen to mention plumbers.
Yeah.
That was an easy one for me. Every business has that kind of customer experience, that if you sell the experience, then you're more likely to get the customers.
Yep. Man, guys, I told you I wanted this to be educational, and that's exactly from a media standpoint what businesses can do. Fairly simple, but what are those couple things that they can really speak to the customer, that they can implement across the board, website, print, social, just everywhere that they are, that their brand is saying the same thing.
That's right.
Well said.
Well, thanks.
Anything else before we move on? Anything other media branding, anything else that often people come to you and say this or say that, and you often come back to just something foundational that people forget about?
I think that foundationally speaking, we're finding for small businesses, if they spend all their time in branding rather than sales, and there's not a call to action with their advertising, it's not as effective. It's more important to tell people, this is the experience you're going to have, and this is the next step we want you to do. It's a more important connection than just putting your logo on something. And sometimes people get really caught up with saying, well, they're just going to recognize my logo and call me. Well, I think that you need to connect with them more emotionally.
Yes.
Literally last week I was in one of my customers' shops, and he says, well, I've been taking out this ad in the front of the paper for months at this point. Just put my logo and a laundry list on there. I'm not getting any calls. But I just figured that's just going to, give me some branding. I hear it all the time. It's like, well, no, you need to sell the experience. And I'll tell you what, a designer that's in-house, who's just cranking out, you have to understand like what designers are doing when they're working for a coupon mailer, for a newspaper, for whatever. They'll have, a dozen ads that they have to design that day, and they're going to do it as quickly and as simply as they can, and they're not going to ask any questions. There's different levels of designers, and that's what we call a production artist. That's somebody who's just like, all right, logo, truck, laundry list, done. Okay, is it good enough? Because they just want it good enough for you to approve it.
Yeah.
But a designer, a creative director, a graphic designer, a marketer is going to ask some harder questions. Is this ad going to convert? Is this going to connect with people emotionally? Yeah. Is this going to attract the right kind of people? Do they know what to do? Are they supposed to go to your calendaring app? Are they supposed to, call you? Are they supposed to go to a website? Like, what do you want them to do once they are sold emotionally on this piece? And so anyway, an agency, creative directors, graphic designers are going to ask those kind of hard questions. And it's going to be harder to work with them.
Of course.
They're going to draw out more. And they're not going to make it just about, well, let's just brag about everything that you do and put a picture of your truck. It's going to be more than that, but it's also going to be more effective when it's all done.
You nailed it.
Thanks.
And that's why, and before, I'll make this the end before we segue. That's why paying someone like you more money is going to have a better rate of return, an ROI, for the business owner.
Ultimately, it will.
I truly believe that ultimately it will. That paying, it's not about just this one time, hey, what's your cost? It's not about that, guys. It's not about that. If you really want to grow your business in a way that resonates with not only you, but the customers, it's going to cost you some money, but it's going to come back. The ROI is there. But it's hard for business owners to understand that at the beginning.
That's right. Well, and just again, just a segue away from this, we took all of those questions that people ask us over the years, and we addressed every one of them in our blog, and then we took all of those things and we compiled them into our book.
Perfect.
And that book addresses all of those issues that we've seen over the years, and then lays out a plan on how you can put together a marketing campaign for a small business that avoids a lot of the
pitfalls,
the potholes, whatever that people tend to fall into as small business owners.
Well said. Where can they find that?
Everywhere. It's on. We always like people to go to the publisher, which is out. It's called The Ultimate Guide for Small Business Digital Marketing.
Okay,
is the name of the book. And the publisher is Warner House Press. That's warner.house. But sometimes it's more accessible for people to go to Amazon. So it's on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble. It's on Kobo, which is kind of the organization that Walmart partners with. It's on Goodreads. It's on a number of foreign sites too. It basically is where you buy books.
Awesome.
You can find it.
Good work. All right, let's segue.
All right.
What keeps you in Greater Prescott?
Oh man, Prescott's a great place to live.
Yeah, I know.
Well, we're from here. We have a lot of connections, a lot of relationships here. We love the weather. We love the scenery. We love everything about Prescott. Yeah. It's really a great place to live. Yeah. And so, we could work pretty much anywhere because of the digital nature of what we do, but we do like, hanging our hat here in Prescott.
Absolutely. Yeah. What do you do in your spare time?
Well, I have a lot of kids. So
I know.
We end up doing a lot with kids. So I do volunteer at my church, and so I spend some time right now in the youth ministry. I really love teenagers. Actually.
Where do you go to church?
I go to Solid Rock, the old First Baptist.
Yep.
So we spend some time there. I play a lot.
Okay.
So when I'm not spending time with my family and not volunteering at the church, I got literally my gears in the back of my car right now.
Ready to roll.
I'm going to roll to a rehearsal tonight. Yeah. And so I really love to play music. I love to play jazz. Okay. Specifically if I can.
Yeah. My wife has a music ed major, and violin is her go-to. And so if you know anyone who wants to learn how to play violin, she's got a little studio.
Oh man, you should interview her.
I have.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, she's been on the pod. She was very reluctant. It took me a while to get her on, but I love music. Just love it. I don't play it at all, but man, I love it. So keep doing it. Well, and it's just what a great outlet, especially for a creative like you. You sit in front of a computer for hours on end, and what just a nice segue. Just get out of that whole arena into playing music.
Yeah, well, I love it.
Good.
I do love it. Yeah.
Good. All right. 2 more sections. This is the rapid fire question section.
Okay.
Answer with the first or second or third thing that comes to mind, because a lot of people can't answer with just one.
Okay.
First question. What's your favorite thing about Greater Prescott?
Oh, man. The climate.
What's your favorite restaurant in Greater Prescott?
Oh, that's such a good question. Oh, I can't answer with just one.
That's why I said you can say more.
Man. We're loving Be Simple right now downtown. Love the Hacienda. Let me think. Where else? Love The Office. I'm sure there's others.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some good restaurants here.
A lot of good restaurants.
Yeah.
I'm shocked. What's the number one thing on your Greater Prescott bucket list?
I'd love to get myself a real 4x4 and join a club.
Yeah.
I think that would be fun.
Yep. When we were living in Phoenix, I was amazed at how many people had 4-wheel drive vehicles because I figured no one used them.
Well, a lot of them don't.
That was my
pristine.
That was my perception, right? And then I moved up here, and then it clicked. I want a 4x4 too because we just have miles of trails.
Yeah. I'd love to
that.
explore all of those. Take my camera.
Yes.
So I got a Subaru and I have a Honda Pilot, but those aren't real
Not quite.
4x4s.
Right.
You know? Not anything you want to get too excited with.
Agreed.
You know.
Next question. Who is your favorite all-time musician?
Boy, that really depends on the style
Name a
of
few.
music. I love the Chick Corea acoustic band. So that's Chick Corea, John Patitucci, Dave Weckl, Frank Gambale. And Chick Corea just passed away, so I'm very sad that I never got to see them. Huh? I love Dexter Gordon. He's probably my favorite saxophonist.
Okay.
And he was very famous back in the back in the 60s. And then I as far as jazz is concerned, I mean I listen to a lot of hard rock music too, and so I listen to all kinds of bands from Demon Hunter to Under Oath. I have my whole slew of worship music I listen to because I play in those arenas sometimes, and so like most people, I love Matt Redman and Chris Tomlin and some of those guys. Matt Papa and Hillsong and the list goes on. So it really depends on anything from jazz to hardcore to worship. I kind of listen to it all. I love it. Yeah. So that's a hard one for me to answer because I love so many different people for so many different reasons.
Yeah. I love it. What are 3 words to describe living in Greater Prescott?
Real good weather.
If you weren't doing Ablaze Media, what type of work would you be doing?
I'd probably be like a cashier at Circle K. No, I don't know what I would be doing. Honestly, I would probably go back into I'm a ordained minister too, so I would probably go back to church ministry.
That's what I thought you'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Last question. What's your favorite summer activity in Greater Prescott?
Well, when I'm in better shape, I have a nice road bike, and I love to just hit the road and ride. And a little out of shape right now, so not doing that so often.
Summer is almost here. Springtime's here. So
I know.
If that's encouraging, hop back on the bike.
I'm working on it.
Good. What is one question you have for me?
Oh man. Well. How did I'll ask you the same thing. What do you love about Prescott? You're up from Tucson.
Real good weather.
Real good weather. Real nice people.
Yes, and I get the same answers from everyone. So everyone always does.
Sure you
it's
do.
so cliche. The weather's wonderful. The small town is fantastic. We have a lot of outdoor activities. Emily and I have 4 young kids, and it just seemed like a great place to raise a family. Yeah. At the end of the day, it checks off a lot of boxes.
It does. It
has enough amenities that are just really convenient, but not too many amenities that it just feels like a Phoenix. It just is. It's such a nice sweet spot.
Right.
Flagstaff's too cold.
It is.
Phoenix
cold.
is too hot.
Yeah.
It's almost perfect here. The diversity, people say diversity all the time, and it's only started to click recently. I think we have topographical diversity. We have people diversity. It's a really unique place.
Yeah, it's
the
a great
more
place.
I'm here, the more I'm going, I really like it here.
Well, a lot of the more rural areas in Arizona, some of them I really love, but they're missing some of that. They don't have shopping, they don't have restaurants, they don't have. Sometimes the weather's much colder. You're right, and some of those places are great to go visit.
Absolutely.
My time in the White Mountains was incredible.
Yes.
I mean, what a beautiful place that is. Yeah. But, we literally had to drive to Flagstaff to do all our shopping.
Okay.
And so, so sometimes that can get a little bit of a drag.
Yeah. All right. Let's wrap it up by you looking at the camera and let everyone know where they can get a hold of you. I will also put all your contact information in the show description.
Okay. Well, all right. So Ablaze Media, you can find us at ablaze.media, no .com, just ablaze.media. And we're on Facebook, we're on, LinkedIn and Twitter and all those things too. But the main thing is ablaze.media,
Okay.
and we keep up a blog there, and all of our contact information all sits there.
I love the subject of media and marketing, and the way that you simplified it was just fantastic. I really hope that listeners will, especially business owners, will really grab a hold of, in a sense, not making it more complex than it should be, and coming to talk to someone like you when they have questions. That it is not just about $1,000 website. It is not just about a $500 logo. It is not just about one ad that's going to run. It's really integrating all of these things with a long-term outlook, knowing that there will be a return on investment. So guys, give Mark a phone call, shoot him an email. You simplified it in a very confusing space. So thank you.
Well, thanks. I'm glad I made it simple.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Guys, thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.